So new dev report just came out, and I'll focus on what I think are the two most exciting things, which is helicopters and mortars. However, there's a few disappointing things about those features. So I'll start with the helicopter. So you see in this video, you can see the character manually placing the pods and then reloading the individual missiles. Now, I think it's good. It's like this minimum baseline of physicality. So you can walk around the object and press F to attach or detach things. So notice here, they skipped animating the character, putting the rockets into it. And that's a first... that's the first bad thing about this report. Because later in the report I'll show you, they actually animated the character putting the mortar shell into the tube. And they should have done the same thing, animating it by stuffing it inside. And that's a problem here, because they're taking a shortcut. They're skipping animations to get more features in, and that's really bad, because it leads the game back to Arma 3, which Arma 3 was always great in concept, or any Arma game before that, but they always lacked the animation quality and detail that Reforger has early on. And it appears now they're starting to cut out the animation quality to, I think, get it done faster or something. And the second problem with the helicopter, it says, while the armament on paper may appear similar, the unique flight characteristics of each helicopter make them effective for different strategies. And when I read that, I was like, okay, that's going to be some stupid gamey balance trash. And then he says, the UH-1H excels in agility and precision, making it perfect for high-speed pop-up attacks, while the Mi-8 leverages its size and payload to devastate an entire area of operations before deploying a full rifle squad from its passenger compartment. Now, this sounds like they're trying to gamify the balance between helicopters. Because in reality, the Huey... there's nothing about the Huey that makes it excel in precision over Mi-8. The Mi-8 is a better helicopter in every way. It's just heavier, but it can also do more things. It can carry more weapons. And I think the maximum load on the Mi-8 in real life on this type of rocket, it's probably 128 even more. Well, on the Huey, it's probably not even 20 rockets. And that's how it should be. The Huey is an inferior helicopter. It's a bit lighter, but it's slower. It has lower payload, and that's it. There shouldn't be any magical buffs imagined because it's a smaller helicopter and there's less ammo on it. It's inferior as a weapons platform than Mi-8 is, especially when it comes to rockets. So that's another point of worry here, because it appears they're trying to gamify. And that's the thing. That type of gaming balance shouldn't be in this game at all. That was something that makes Reforger special compared to Squad or other games that compromised on realism. Like, this game has to be a simulator of military equipment, and then throw it into the game mode and let players learn how to use it with all its advantages and disadvantages. So there should be no gamey balance at all for that. Okay, let's go to the next. Vulnerability. Okay, I don't care about that. Okay, now Mortars, there's some pretty exciting stuff in it, but also some pretty disappointing stuff. So I'll start with, let's take a look. Okay, here's how it looks when you shoot a mortar. You take a shell. Now it's holding with the left hand. We can remove these rings. I think those are for increasing the range of it. I'm not sure what that does in real life. Now see, it's animated the way he puts it in. I think that's pretty cool. Oh, here's the first problem with the animation. Notice here. He's holding it with the left hand. Because I think, here's a problem. The left-hand feature is one of the best features of Reforger, because it allows you to use small items quickly, like use a binocular, raise it to your eyes, and put it down again, and then quickly reach back to your rifle. That's a great feature for small items. But if you do it with something as heavy as a mortar shell, I'm not sure how heavy these mortar shells are, but it's probably, nobody would, assuming it's a right-handed person, hold this weapon basically almost the stock in his shoulder while using his left hand to carry an explosive around. Now, it's just, you see it in when he's putting it in, the animation blends into a two-handed animation where he sticks it into it. And it's actually pretty well timed too. See? It's pretty well timed to the object that he's standing to. Then he shoots it. But here's a problem with that system. It should be different, because it feels like it's weightless, like it's made out of styrofoam. And they actually allude to that. Listen, but I'll talk about it later. Now, here's the second problem. Now, here it gets extremely disappointing. See, when I imagined how Mortars would be, I assumed they would make the mortar optic a full 3D object where a character slowly leans into it, and you can look through it like a 3D scope, like on 3D scopes on weapons. And then you would have the little dials that would be animated as you rotate them. Now, it wouldn't have to require the fingers to rotate them, just the thing to rotate on its own. That would be nice. However, they went for the cheapest solution possible, which is, I'll show you. Let's see. And the game switches to a 2D minigame. Now, the entire shooting aiming experience is a 2D minigame on a screen. And that's going back to Arma 3 and the previous Arma games. And that's the single most disappointing thing in the entire update for me. Because what it should have done is go quality over quantity, which means model the object and then have like the 3D object you can interact with. Similar to how you can interact with most of the interior of a BTR. Because that's a standard I expected for Reforger to continue. However, it appears that they're starting to go away from that standard. They're starting to skip out on highly detailed animation work so they can get stuff done sooner. And if that is the trajectory of the game, then Arma 4 is going to be really disappointing because they're just going to skip out on most 3D objects to interact with and just use 2D minigames like that. And it actually gets worse in a moment. Also, they actually mentioned that the mortar is a deployable, buildable thing. So there's nothing about detaching it, disassembling it, and carrying it somewhere. So nothing of that. It just says here, can opt to deploy a standalone mortar or a full composition. We are base building menu or construction trucks. So that's another disappointment. I was hoping for the mortar to be like a thing you disassemble and carry in like a group of players instead of it just being a deployable thing you put somewhere. But not everything is bad in this update. I'll just go through it. Okay, then you got shell types. Different shell types, American shells. You got like these little rings you can detach, which I think is how much range it's going to have or something. And fuse timers. Now the problem is those things are detaching isn't animated, it just pops out of you. But then again, at least they animated you holding the shell and removing the thing. However, here's another thing where they could have done something great, but they skipped the difficult animation work and made it easier for themselves. It says here, shell carrying a new hand slot. Due to the fact that mortar shells are rather large and heavy, we needed to introduce specialized transport methods by the player. As usual, players can carry shells in backpacks on dedicated armor crates, designed for the new hand slot that was created for that very purpose. This hand slot allows players to hold a single item without using normal inventory space, though running or jumping will cause the item to drop or return to inventory if space permits. You see, that's what I mentioned earlier with the binoculars. They could have just... What they should have done, instead of just copying the binocular holding animation, which was made for small items, an object of this size, and it's probably considerably heavier than what it looks like here, because it feels like a styrofoam stick you're holding. That thing should be carried by a person with two hands, because I'm pretty sure, how do we call the guys loading the mortar? Is it the loader? He would probably, in real life, hold the thing with two hands before he lines it up for the tube and puts it in. And his gun would probably dangle off a sling or be on his back or put on a sandbag next to it. I'm not sure they do it in real life. But they probably wouldn't carry it with one hand like that. And then quickly switch to a blend animation, like I showed in the previous video, where it quickly goes into two-handed animation. And that's another problem here. They opted for a cheap hack of a good system that wasn't made for it, instead of going the extra mile and completely animating it with beautiful animations where you hold it with both hands. Because that's kind of the thing what Reforger could be what could make Reforger better, because everything is highly detailed what you interact with. And I think they're dropping that standard now to get it done sooner, and I think it's a pretty bad thing. Okay, is there anything else? Also to mention that if you're standing too close to the muzzle, you can get hurt. Okay, that's nice. Mortars recoil, so the sight gets misaligned, and now that's a really cool thing here. There's finally some good news in this patch. Ballistic data, it's a sheet you can hold like that to read it, and I actually really like that. And I really like it that they actually kept it in Cyrillic, so you have to decipher what it means. I mean, I can read some Cyrillic, but I don't really understand Russian, so yeah, I can probably figure it out. That's meters, because Russians or Soviets, they use the metric system. And from here it goes downhill. And here what it says, the Mortar HUD features a convenient widget on the right side that provides real-time information on the required elevation to accurately target at a specific range. This tool simplifies adjustments so players can quickly align their shots. Why is a developer in this game studio allowed to do that? To make something easier and convenient and an easy thing on the HUD. That's what this game shouldn't be. You should actually have to like hold the ranging table and look on the 3D object, if it would be modeled, where the dial is to see what the thing is. No UI minigame, the actual 3D object should be something you should manipulate. And it actually gets worse. Let me scroll down. Map improvements. Okay, that's really bad. To streamline communication. Now, streamlining means sucking out realistic gameplay. Okay, so to streamline communication and improve the speed at which players can request fire support, we've introduced a handy tool. Oh my God, see how bad it gets. A handy tool that may feel familiar to veterans of previous Arma titles. Yeah, that's a problem. It shouldn't be like previous Arma titles. This new tool overlays the grid on the map and displays approximate elevations above sea level, rounded into 5-meter increments to align with contour lines. And that's bad because players should work out the elevation distances by learning how to read the map. And they actually added a Soviet ruler, or as they call it, protractor. That's pretty nice. So yeah, that's it for this video. There's also other features like tree destructions and building destructions, but I don't want to make the video too long, so I'm just focusing on that. And that's some quick hack UI minigame that the coder probably scripted together in like 20 minutes. And that's not a feature, that's like a text adventure version of a feature. Because that's the thing. If a developer watches this video, they should not drop the quality that the standard they set for early Reforger and water it down to Arma 3 levels in terms of skipping out animation quality just to get it done sooner. Because that's one of the most disappointing things for me, is that the Mortars are like that. Because if they keep skipping out on quality like that, especially when it comes to animation and detail and how things work, then the game will end up being a worse version of Squad, because Squad has more gear at the lower level of fidelity, and there's a lot better weapon sounds and a lot more factions to play with. And what Reforger has as an advantage over Squad is the much higher fidelity in the way you interact with your game vault or with the objects you use as weapons. So they should not give that away, that advantage, because then it's just going to be worse as Squad.